Well, welcome everybody to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Did you
Hello,
have to
everybody.
do
How are
that?
you today?
Did you have to go down that particular road?
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing the imitation of that person. I'm doing it. Obviously, you're not a sports person. That was the way Mad Dog Russo used to open up the Mike and the Mad Dog show
Oh
on.
yeah,
I didn't do it quite as good as he used to do, though. Hello, everybody. How are you today? Mike and the Mad Dog. Well, anyway,
that's Joe Rayo on the left. I'm Joe Chaffee on the right, and the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by. Hold on,
Omni.
they are, but I don't have them on the screen for some reason. This is odd. Oh,
I
this
see it
is
in the lower left-hand corner, right underneath me, Joe.
no, I know, but
There it is. It says Omni right there.
I don't know why it did that. Okay, here we go. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631 756 1125. They're getting ready for winter, so guess what? You should be getting ready for winter too. They've got Omni Melt, Petalo, calcium chloride pellets, and mag ice pellets and flakes, along with biomelt, geomelt, and of course they are Long Island's largest provider of rock salt and all your winter storm supplies. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, just north of the Southern State Parkway, and the telephone number is 75631 756 1125. OmniTrueValue.com, Mr. Rayo. So
Yes.
uh, the rain got very heavy when it was approaching New York City and Long Island. They had some thunderstorms roll through Long Island this morning with some rather heavy downpours. And of course, after that, the wind howled for a little while and saw some gusts up into the 30s. Temperatures settled back into the 40s. It's a cold front every couple of days type of weather pattern. So it seems, anyway.
It was 59 degrees at our house at 4 o'clock this morning. And just a few hours later, it was only in the upper 40s with a gusty wind. And the day overall started out gray and dreary and finished off bright and sunny. But there's a lot of leaves and debris all over the place. This is after I spent the better part of Saturday cleaning up what I thought would be the last of the leaves, but now they've been blown all over the place again. So
This
what
is
are you
what
going to do?
happens this time of year, Mr. Rayo.
Yes,
The leaves do get blown everywhere, but before too long, they'll be disintegrating into the ground as we get through the winter and so on. Uh, Not much happening this week, really. I mean, everything seems to be just kind of on the semi unimpressive side. We're going to get a high in here tomorrow. Wednesday may turn out to be the way Sunday was, where we have clouds around and fighting a warm front pushing to the north. And then it looks like we'll probably get into some rain or showers later Wednesday night through at least part of Thanksgiving Day. And then the weather improves on Friday. That's the way I have it figured out.
I pretty much have the same methodology as you and came up with basically the same solution. Looks like we are going to be thoroughly basted here, not just the turkey, but us in terms of wet weather, at least for the early part of the day on Thursday. And then things will kind of taper off some later Thursday. But it looks like it's going to be a mild day on Thursday, Joe. I could see, for example, New York City hitting 60 degrees on Thursday, and many of the outlying areas residing mostly in the 50s. So
Which, by the
that's
way, is typical for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, most years, I mean, there are the years where Thanksgiving's a cold day, a blustery day. Then you get the odd Thanksgiving where you see some snow, but that doesn't happen too often. But most of the time, it's just kind of in the 50s and just sort of typical late fall weather. Nothing that stands out in my mind, other than the couple of times that it snowed on Thanksgiving Day in our lifetime.
well, I think that if memory serves me correct, not last year, but I think the year before, it was unusually chilly weather pattern across our area.
And did we have
And
did wasn't that there was one day a couple of years ago where we set the record low for the date or got very close to setting the record
yeah,
low for
I
the
think
date?
that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had in recent years some cold weather. Of course, I think about 4 or 5 years ago we actually had snow around here, which accumulated to a degree. But it's kind of nice to enjoy a Thanksgiving that's going to be on the mild side. Unfortunately, also on the wet side, as you pointed out, Joe, some of that wetness will begin spreading overhead probably sometime the night before on Wednesday night. Getaway Wednesday, as it's sometimes
Right.
called.
And I think we're still looking at the likelihood that uh, probably Sunday night or Monday or Sunday night into Monday, something like that, where we're going to have some kind of deepening low moving up through the eastern states. And looks like we're going to get a shot of some cold air to come down out of Canada for a couple of days to kick off the month of December. That seems on course.
It seems like it's not going to be a terrible stretch of weather for the upcoming holiday weekend. I've known some Thanksgiving holidays where we've always had to warn people, either at the very beginning or at the very end, that there was going to be some kind of a monstrous system, be it rain, wind, or snow, to travel through or travel back from. But it does look like that's going to be the case this year. Yeah, it's going to rain a little bit Wednesday night and Thursday, but it's not going to be, terribly heavy. And as you pointed out, Joe, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, much of Sunday, should be dry.
All right. So I thought maybe just for a change of pace tonight. Usually I do we do the long range later. I thought we'd do the long range first because there's a couple of things that I noticed today that I thought was interesting. So we'll start with that. Joe Rayo will be monitoring the chat board. So if you've got any questions or comments, just leave them right up there, and we'll try to address them. And if you want to get on the chat board, just make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can log in with you can do that with your Gmail address, and then you're all set to go, and you can participate in the chat too. Joe, I want to look at the stratosphere. I've been spending some time on this and been following this very closely for the last uh, 10 days or so, and it seems pretty interesting to me what showed up on the latest several runs of the GFS. You know, we've been talking about the fact that whenever the polar vortex looks like this, where it's kind of wrapped up like a tight ball, we're talking about in the stratosphere now, so we're talking about where planes fly. When the polar vortex is wrapped up like this, all the cold air stays up in northern Canada and over the Arctic region. So pretty much where you see all the darker blue is indicative of that at the surface. And we've been monitoring the fact that the models have been ushering in uh, a change going forward. I'm going to leave up what I just drew. And as we roll along, the polar vortex is right on the north coast of Siberia. And over the next 2 weeks, models continue to show this vortex stretching and gradually making its way to the north coast of Greenland by the end of the forecast period. And that's a significant change here in terms of the the shape of the polar vortex and the position of the polar vortex. So this is now you're seeing all that blue instead of being concentrated over the Arctic region. That area is spread out down into the at least into the northern tier of the United States. Seems like there's a little bit more of it that drops down into the central and southern Rockies, but overall it does uh, at least indicate something is going on in the stratosphere. Now, oftentimes, what happens up here takes time for it to play through to the lower atmosphere. The other thing I noticed, and I'm just going to roll this back again, and I want you to kind of look over Asia. You're going to see a darker brown spot that appears and starts pushing eastward toward the end of the forecast period. This is very warm air. You kind of see it right here. It makes its appearance. This darker shade of brown that pops up, and as we move along, that makes its way across Asia, and looks like that might be a little bit of an attack of warm air into the polar vortex. So this might be something. This could be very important down the road because this could be indicative of maybe a bit of a warming event in the stratosphere, and that may impact the polar vortex up there. And one of the things that forecasters look for is the polar vortex at that level to weaken and split. No sign of that happening, even though it does stretch out. At this point, it's getting very stretched, but we're going to watch this. I think, Joe, this could have an impact on the pattern later in the month of December. And I don't know which way it'll have an impact, but it may have an impact in the weather pattern overall. So I think it's definitely worth paying attention to.
The climate model that we can find on the Tropical Tidbit site.
Which I will do
Thank you
now
very
by
much,
clicking
leaving it
on
home.
climate, and we'll put on weekly.
And we mentioned this yesterday. It looks like, Joe, the second week of December overall looks like, if you want to believe these long range models, as a relatively mild or above normal temperature month. But you mentioned yesterday about the door slightly opening a little bit, or the door being a bit ajar. Second week of December, where the pattern kind of breaks down briefly
Yeah,
to
right in
allow a little
here.
bit of cold, to allow a little bit of colder air to come in, and maybe, just maybe, with the shape of the upper level trough, that we might be looking at possibly something during that second
Well,
week of
you
December.
do have also ridging out in the west in that second week. I think that's a pretty significant development here. The climate models for weeks going into the month of December were just pretty much, screaming west to east flow, warm air everywhere. But now as we've gotten closer, it seems to have picked up. I also noticed, by the way, that the ensembles have picked up on this as well, and I'll bring those up in a second. But this is the week of December 7th, the 7 day period from the 7th to the 14th, where there's a mean trough in the eastern part of the United States and a mean ridge in the west. It then sort of it reverts back to an extent, but it's not quite as warm looking as it was back a couple of weeks ago for this time frame. And then, Joe, toward the end of the month, it starts. While it's not quite there yet, it is starting to show a colder look across the northern tier and into southeastern Canada. So I would. This is another thing we should pay attention to. The CFS has never been the most reliable model in the world. It has a habit of sometimes grabbing onto a pattern and just holding onto it, and oftentimes, some of the other models that you look at, to be it if you look at a long range European, which we really don't get to see, or if you look at the ensembles, will pick up on something, and then the climate model will catch up. So I think we're in this process here, where we're sort of in a catch-up phase with all of this.
Well, I can tell you also that the Climate Prediction Center, for the period from December 1st through the 7th. Now, again, as you pointed out, Joe, for the longest time, the pattern had showed that December would be from one coast to the other, just well above normal or above
Right, an
normal
absolute
temperatures,
blowtorch. That's the
an
that's the word
absolute
you're looking at.
blowtorch.
An absolute blowtorch.
Well, now it's a little bit different. Now they actually have, from about our area south and west down through the nation's midsection into Texas and across the Gulf Coast, near or below normal temperatures for that first week of December, and that might actually be a suggestion or an indication of some changes coming, because the uh, the the pattern, as you just mentioned, has always been up until just now, blowtorch weather. But now there's some suggestion that it may actually turn cool, or cooler than
Or
normal for
yeah,
places.
well, I'm looking at the ensembles, which has an opening. It seems like it sort of has a trough hanging right along the east coast as we get around December 6th or 7th. It's not a screaming warm look as you go toward the end of the forecast period here, which is December 9th. And if you want to use the extension of go on beyond that period, you can kind of see where it's going. It does look like that we're seeing below normal anomalies starting to show up in the southeastern part of the United States, above normal anomalies in southeastern Canada. Also, I'm going to keep an eye. You want to keep an eye on the area around 160 degrees west. You want to see a trough there, because if there's a trough out at 160, there's usually a ridge along 120, and then there's usually some kind of trough along 80. Joe, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be cold. If you're a snow lover, it only has to be cold enough when the precip comes. You could have all the cold air in the world, and Joe, you and I have seen how many times over our many years together where you're cold for what seems like days and sometimes even weeks on end, and then when a storm finally arrives to bring precip, it warms up and rains. So I think the focus is if you can just get cold air in here long enough, you'll have an opportunity. An opportunity will present itself at some point.
Well, I'm checking out one of my main authorities here. I'm not on camera, so I can't show. But it's the Farmer's Almanac for the year 2020, Joe.
Okay.
And I'm just looking here, northeastern New England, and it says for the period from December 12th to the 15th, major East Coast storm. So there you go.
What period is that again? The 12th to the 15th?
December 12th to the 15th of next month, December, a major East Coast storm for the Northeast, as mentioned in Zone 1, the Northeast United States and New England. So let's see what happens.
Oddly enough, in this shift to colder air, I'm just sort of looking here. The On the ensembles anyway. The early next week we go below normal starting late Monday, and it carries below normal to through a good chunk. In fact, the whole week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And you have these below normal anomalies in the longer term. All the above normals go up to our north. We're kind of on the edge of it. So look, I think this is going to be worth watching. Uh, well, I mean, at the end of the day, we really don't have, what else do we have to watch? We're kind of at the mercy to what the weather pattern is going to be, regardless of how you might want it to be, whether if you're a snow lover. So you just have to be patient and just uh, you know to just watch and see how things evolve. The only thing I will say that is something that I think is also equally important is the fact that uh, the tropics. We've been mentioning about the fact that if you keep getting these tropical systems developing in the Gulf of in the Caribbean, that is not good because that is inferring that there's a ridge of high pressure in the Gulf of Mexico and probably an extension that goes into the Southwest Atlantic. So you have a ridge in the east. But if the Caribbean has shut down, which it appears like it has done, and I think it's going to remain shut down, because we're going to have actually higher pressures down there, uh, that is a plus for allowing colder air to make an attempt at least to come in, and we're going to see such an attempt early next week.
I don't know about you, but we're going to take the next couple of days to do a lot of things outside and put up the Christmas lights outside. We already started that, but I want to do it now before we settle into a cold or chilly weather pattern. You just don't want to try to string lights when the
Yeah,
temperatures
do
are
it when it's
chilly.
warm. Just get it done.
Get
I mean,
it done.
just get it done. Do it. By the way, we
I
should
hate
tell
getting
every.
up on the
Go
I
ahead. I'm
hate getting
sorry.
up on the little I hate getting up on the little giant ladder, which I have to climb like almost 20 feet up in order to get to the top of the peak of the house to start this, to string the lights up on and along the roof there. That's one job that I can someday hope that I won't have to do
I don't do
in the
that.
near future.
I don't do that anymore. Not doing it. I used to love doing it. Then you get to a certain point in your life, you just don't want to bother with it anymore. We should also. This is probably a good place to mention the fact that the plan this week at the moment, and it's always subject to change without notice, is that we will be here tomorrow night, but we will be off Wednesday and Thursday and possibly Friday so that we can celebrate Thanksgiving and you can celebrate Thanksgiving. And there's nothing earth shattering that's going on. If there was something earth shattering going on, we'd be here. But for now, I think the plan is that you and we're going to take a break Wednesday and Thursday and possibly Friday uh, from the Joe and Joe Weather Show. So just
I
letting
want to
every
thank I want to thank on the chat board Matt K, who writes, "Be careful, Joe R," in reference to my climbing the high ladder to put the lights up. And my dear beloved, my best friend for life, who says, "Guess who's at the bottom of the ladder to catch him?"
Yes, or to shake or to shake the ladder.
Or to shake the ladder.
Right.
No, she wouldn't do
She wouldn't do that. Not until you sign the insurance forms.
that.
All right, so let's run through run through what's going on at the moment, and I will bring the maps back up as they are. I brought us back up full screen so everybody can see our lovely faces. But just have some temperatures have settled. I'm just looking at some of these temperatures, Joe. Still getting some gusts at the coast up to about 20 or 25 miles an hour. The winds have dropped off a bit inland, but we're seeing temperatures mostly in the upper 30s and low 40s now with this northwest wind, the high building in, and a cold night setting up ahead. Just want to run down a little bit further to the south so we can take a look because I'm in the Georgia mountains. I have to tell you, it was chilly here today. I don't think it got out of the 50s. And right now, we're sitting mostly around or just over the 50-degree mark. There are a few upper 40s showing up, but I'm way up north here, folks. I'm up. Well, Tallulah is just north of me. 4929 is the observation there. The Toccoa Lake Tourneur Airport, which I'm not too far from, and that's 996 feet of elevation, 5138. Trying to find Blairstown. Gainesville. Oh, Blairsville Airport. So that's where I am. There's the airport here, by the way, is 1,900 feet up, Joe. It's 38 there, 38, 31. Clear skies, 10 miles visibility. I took some pictures, in fact. So let me bring those up. I took some pictures today of the mountains. Hang on. And
And later in the week, we'll be approaching full moon, and those night skies will be lit up, and it's going to be well, as we just mentioned, we make the transition from November to December, and it looks like we're going to be turning progressively colder once we cross over into the new month.
I posted pictures up here. That's odd. Not there. Oh well. What can I tell you? So let's go. Let's jump over to the GOES US satellite view here. Clouds moving away from New England. You start to see moisture gathering in the central plains that's headed up into the lower Great Lakes, also extends up into the Rockies in the Pacific Northwest. This was the radar from this morning, Joe, when we had the thunderstorms that happened over Long Island. This was some pretty hefty looking rain here. I don't know. I didn't check to see what the total rainfall amounts, but I bet you it was up close to an inch in some places. And that rain moved up into southern and southeastern New England and was a big plus from that standpoint because they're still very dry. And I'll just bring up the full U.S. radar view. There you go. A little slow on the uptake today. I've adopted the slower southern pace again, Mr. Rayo. Precip leaving eastern Maine. You can see some precip breaking out in parts of Illinois and back over into southern Iowa. A little bit of scattered snows back up into parts of Colorado and Utah. There's just some light scattered action in the Pacific Northwest. As we said, most of the weather across the U.S. is on the quiet side. The surface map tonight showing, our front is long gone. There's a little bit of a secondary front that's dropping through the Great Lakes with some slightly colder air with that high coming in. So that's our weather for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states for tomorrow. Should be a nice sunny day. It was beautiful all the way down through much of the Southeast and into Florida I didn't see any clouds at all today. And then you got low pressure now in Colorado, and this is going to be the system that's going to run to the Great Lakes and bring in some showers on Wednesday night into Thursday. And WPC, in terms of rainfall for the next 7 days. Now, I think at this point it's picking up the system that might be with us for Sunday night and Monday, Joe. So they've got us in the purple, which is 1.5 inches of liquid. So that's both whatever happens Wednesday night into Thursday. And then the bigger event would be for Sunday night and Monday. And you can still see they're generating some big rains back through from Texas on up into Alabama. Some 3 to 5 inch rain amounts over the next 7 days. Some action up in the northwest. But most of the heavy rain in the northwest is going into southwestern Canada rather than into Washington or Oregon, although there is some rain there that is being forecast. So, on that note, time to bring the upper air.
It's interesting. I mentioned this yesterday, how it looks like over the next 7 days, it's the western United States that will be not devoid of any precipitation. Certainly along the Pacific coast of Oregon and Washington, they'll have their fair share. But usually it seems like when we get to Thanksgiving, if there's going to be any kind of major outbreak of precip, it's usually over the plain states. And that's usually also where they talk about showery conditions or snowy conditions out there. And thank you very much, Scott Briller. Sent me a little note earlier today, Joe, about thanks for Renata for hosting the Briller Jeopardy yesterday. And he says when he has another cooking segment, he asked if Renata could do that as well.
Well, Renata knows her stuff. I pale by comparison.
Well, both of us, you know.
Yeah,
I even said,
you pale a lot more than I do.
Joe R. This is from William Huber. Joe R. Tell Joe C. Had a lot of flooding on roads and parking lots. Put my rain gauge, blew over. Putt had to have 1.5 inches.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sure it did. Judging from the radar for what was going on this morning, it just went crazy over Long Island. And also into southern and southeastern New England. So that was a big plus for those areas that have been bone dry for so darn long. I rolled back to last Friday on the upper air just to show everybody what I was talking about before with regards to the tropics being active. We still had this ridge, this east-west ridge from the Pacific side, west of Baja, across the Gulf states and off the southeast coast. We sort of had this flat west to east flow, but that changes as we get some troughing dropping into the eastern part of the United States. So now the higher pressures actually shift southward, and this is going to cause the Caribbean, as I said, to shut down. If we look by next Tuesday, you've got a big ridge of high pressure aloft sitting from the Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico. So that again, it's important that the tropical system shuts down, the tropical season shuts down in that area in order it would be a signal that the pattern is changing a bit. One of the things I noticed on the upper air, by the way, as we go forward, you see the trough, the system that's coming for Thursday is not all that impressive. It's a short wave. It just kind of lifts along. Then you set up what's going to happen for over the weekend. You have another trough that pushes a weak front through here sometime on Saturday. I don't think there's going to be too much with that. But there's yet another short wave dropping down from the north in Canada. You see it there, and you see also a southern stream system. And we haven't had this happen for a while, but we're going to have some kind of phasing going on between those two with the system for Sunday night and Monday. So this is one of those situations I think you have to kind of watch to see if the phase winds up taking place a little bit further to the west, because that's something that the European was showing for quite a bit and taking a big storm up to the eastern lakes. It kind of has gone to more the lines of the GFS, which has got a bit of a flatter look to it, and a low further to the east. There's no cold air until this thing goes by. And then you start to get, you do have a little bit of a Canadian connection here to bring down some cold air for that period during the first 4 or 5 days of December. Now, I don't know if you looked out in the long range, Joe, but the GFS did something really weird earlier today, and I'm trying. It did it again on this run. Hang on. No, it actually didn't do it on this run. Oh, that's interesting. That's good because the other one looked weird when I saw it.
The 18 or the 12Z?
The 12Z. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'll roll back to the 12Z because the 12Z. Hang on. Where is it? Um, I want to make sure I'm on the right. Do I have the GFS up or the no, I got the GFS up. Hang on. Wait, this is kind of strange here. Let me straighten out this map. This map doesn't look right. Yeah, no wonder, because I still had the ensembles up. Never mind. But so okay. Like, why am I? And I'm staring at the thing, and it looks like it's saying GFS, and it's saying the GEFs. Okay, so here's how it looks. So here's our system for Thursday. All right, you see it right here. There's this little shortwave trough and upper low right over there. Okay, then you got this mess that's coming out, coming into the Rockies. The southern part of that drops down into Texas. The northern part races along. We get this weak front that comes through on Saturday, but then there's a second short wave that drops down from Canada, and there's your phase. It phases this in just to our west, so you'll probably run a low northeastward up from the northern Gulf up the coast. Obviously, there's no cold air until the trough swings around. And then there's another one behind it, Joe. And this is what I found so strange, because you really don't see this too often, but it drops and forms a really vigorous cutoff low in the southeast. I don't know how real this is, but it's a pretty vigorous looking system. And this was out on the 12Z. That's on the 18Z, and it did it also on the earlier run today. I thought that was just a very strange. I mean, take a look at this. It just is really odd. But what it's showing is that pressures are rising across much of Canada, so all the energy just kind of drops down to the south. It's got a big cutoff low down there that eventually just sort of spirals northeastward up into New England as we head toward December 8th and 9th. And of course, once that goes by, we've got an upper air that would favor cold air coming into the east. Again, note, folks, watch that trough down at 160. Okay, you have some ridging up in northwest Canada, and then you have troughing in the eastern part of the United States. So it's all key as far as what happens in the long range. And then, of course, once that lifts out, you start to see the deck chairs getting rearranged again. But there's another trough that's out to the west that's part of this whole mess. I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting thing to watch during the first half of the month, given the changes that we're seeing. There's a lot of volatility in the longer term here.
I agree. I think that second week of December is going to be most interesting to watch. We've been getting hints and clues that that will be the time when, as quote you yesterday, Joe, maybe the door opens up a little bit for cold and maybe some unsettled weather. So that'll be something to watch
By the way,
for.
December 2nd last year, I was reminded today by Kevin Walsh, who's one of regulars who follows my weather and your weather too, and others. But he pointed out to me that December 2nd, I think last year, New York City got 2 inches of snow, and that was the biggest snowfall for the whole winter.
Right, the entire month of December in Central Park was 2.5 inches, and little did we know that 2.5 would make up more than half of the entire snow total for the winter of 2019-2020.
Yep. So for Tuesday, as we said, we've got high pressure here in the east, a cool day, low pressure coming out of Colorado. You can see rain across Iowa, Nebraska, snow on the northern fringe of that from southern Wisconsin to about Chicago, and then that moves northeastward. Also, again, this almost looks like what happened on Sunday. A little snow breaking out in western New York and northern New York ahead of the warm front. There really isn't too much with that. And then your low runs up toward the Great Lakes, weakens as it does so. We get that area of rain or showers Wednesday night into Thursday. The rest of the country looks pretty quiet for later Thursday and Friday. You start to see Gulf moisture show up here on Saturday. A weak front goes by, but still nothing of consequence. But there's a lot of moisture that's going to build down there. And now, of course, you begin to see on Sunday low pressure north of Minnesota, and then another low that comes up from the south and brings rain here for Monday. It looks like on this GFS run, Sunday's fine all day. Sometime later Sunday night and Monday, we get into some heavy rains, and that low intensifies as it moves up into Maine. Might actually get some solid snow up in northern Maine from this. And then the wind is going to be cranking here, if this is right, Monday night through Tuesday with that cold air coming down.
Yes, yes, yes. So enjoy the relatively balmy breezes because I have a feeling, in spite of the fact that we were told for a number of weeks that December was going to be, as you put it, Joe, blowtorch weather, it's beginning to look more and more like it's going to be anything but blowtorch. In fact, if anything, it may be downright cold here
Yeah,
for at least the
at
first
least
half of the
at
month.
least for a couple of days. The air mass actually moderates quickly, but I would just caution because now we get into that weird scenario that the GFS shows with this diving upper low down into the central Appalachians, and it brings a low, it develops a low off the Florida coast and brings it northward, non-tropical. But it's very odd looking. So and then after it goes by, of course, it strengthens. It's got a 964 low near Nova Scotia behind it by Monday, December 7th. And then you got a massive gradient from that low. I mean, it's blowing away up and down the entire eastern seaboard for the 7th and 8th and even into the 9th. So, again, I'm just, that's long, long range. And I'm going to, for now, discount it because of the fact that it just looks so hard. It just looks bizarre, and the European doesn't quite look like that. So we'll give the model some time to settle out and figure out what in the name of God is going on.
We'll see. We'll see. It's always dangerous, as we've said, when you look much beyond 5 days. And here we are. We're speculating on more than 5 days. We're speculating on like 8, 10, 12 days.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
no, I agree with you. So, are you doing Thanksgiving this year?
Am I doing Thanksgiving? Well, we're going to have Thanksgiving, but normally we have about a dozen or so people, and this year it will be much less than that. Probably more like 4 or 5 total for thank. I'm going down into the Bronx and picking up both my mom and my sister and delivering them here Thursday afternoon, and it'll be my wife, my daughter, a friend of my daughter's, and that'll be pretty much it. It's no big table this year, but we'll do it this way this year. We'll do it right this year, and all of us will have a grand and glorious Thanksgiving next year when we put this all behind us. This
Uh, yeah.
pandemic.
Um, Timothy Veltman just messaged me and said how Jess Harden on the board keeps asking for. We just went through the whole GFS, and yeah, I mean, it did show one of the runs from earlier today. It showed snow down in Alabama with this bizarre looking cutoff low that is it's very intense looking, and the upper feature, and it's a cold upper feature, so you probably get some weird weather out of it if it verified. But again, I have some doubts right now regarding it. So it's fabulous eye candy for you, Jess, but I wouldn't put a lot of stock in it this far into the long range. And I've got some. Let's see. Oh, okay. I do have some Briller Jeopardy for you, so that's good. So I
So
just
do
was
I.
just so you go first. I'm having a
And
little
then
trouble with my board tonight. It's acting a little
while
crazy.
I get these questions, I'd like to mention that I posted today on my Joe Rayo Weather channel on YouTube my Central Park snow survey, a statistical survey for snowfall, how you can quite possibly get a good handle as to how much snow New York City is going to get based upon how much snow Central Park gets during the month of December. And if I hope this works, I'm going to put up the link to the video that I posted.
Right. It may not let you, so if it doesn't let you, I will put it up for you
All right,
because
well,
I'm that sort of person.
I see it quite plainly here on the chat board.
You see the
Um,
link up there?
well, I see HTTPS blah 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 YouTube.com whatever. So I
All
guess
right.
all you have to do if you
Good.
want to see it, just make a copy of it and then just go to your browser or whatever you're using to span the
Isn't
internet.
he exciting when he gives tech instructions?
Whatever.
Yes, you did. You did right. Okay.
Are you wondering just how much snow New
And you can
York
see
City is going to
it's a
get
short,
during this
relatively
upcoming
short
winter
video. It's
season?
about 12 minutes
Of
long, and it'll give you all the statistics. It has pretty pictures and diagrams and whatever explaining my methodology of trying to figure out what the. Oh, now you put it up too.
I put it up too. I'm waiting for all the chats to load because what I can do is I can actually pin it to the top of the chat.
Oh, lovely.
And we should also mention that, oh, Scott Briller hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate it. And hang on a second. We're going to do Briller Jeopardy in a moment. Okay, now good. All the chat has now rolled up to where I can. It's not moving at 100 miles an hour. Yeah, no, it is moving at 100 miles an hour. There's more chats. Oh, good Lord.
Oh, there it is. I see it twice now.
Yeah, because I put it up twice. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get to a point where the chat stops. See, when I don't have the studio page up, which is what you use on YouTube when you broadcast live, the chats don't scroll. So I have to literally go through 40 minutes of conversation until it stops. Oh, Jess Harden said thank you. So good. He's happy.
Lovely. Well,
Yeah.
you could do if you have nothing to do on Thanksgiving Day or after you finish your turkey. If the tryptophan hasn't kicked in, you could watch my video and try and
Oh,
see.
now Timothy Veltman put up the link too. I'm not even going to get a chance to pin this darn thing. Good Lord. All right, go ahead and shoot your questions.
All right, here we go. Question number one. What is McDonald's best-selling item
Besides the Big Mac,
besides the Big Mac? It's their number one best-selling item.
oh, okay. Um, I would say I would say chicken nuggets.
No,
It's not the chicken nuggets.
it's not the chicken
I mean,
nuggets.
I
It's not
don't eat
the,
McDonald's, but
it's
okay.
not the Big Mac.
Well, it's not the Big Mac. It's not the quarter. Is it the quarter pounder?
No, not the quarter pounder.
All right. Well, go ahead. What is it?
French
French
fries.
fries. Yes, of course. Of course.
Remember that commercial many years ago for Eyewitness News with Roger Grimsby and Bill Butel,
Hmm.
and everybody was trying to. I think Roger Grimsby had French fries, and like everybody on the Eyewitness News staff kept plucking away at it until there was nothing left for Roger Grimsby. French
Joe,
fries, how wonderful, Roger! Thank you.
yes. Joe Rayo's link, by the way, is now pinned to the top of the chat, so it's very easy for everybody to get to, because
There you
it's
go.
pinned up there.
Thank you.
Okay, next question.
Next question: how many days has Central Park fallen below zero since 1869? And it's within 10 for credit. You have to get within 10,
Within
either side, I
10?
guess.
Well, I mean, it happened a whole bunch of times, early on, and then it just kind of stopped happening after that. I'll say 20.
No, believe it or not, 58.
58 times. Yeah, when you look early on,
Yes,
if you go back prior to 1940 or 50, it happened. It happened quite frequently.
right.
But yeah, and
Those are the days when Ricky would bang on the pipes and say, "Fred, send up some
said
heat,
heat.
Fred."
Yes, yes. Next.
Number three, question three. What does the 57 on a Heinz ketchup bottle represent?
Well, they said it's 57 varieties.
Right. That's what I always thought.
Yeah, but I read this once. I always get a kick out of the movie the original Manchurian Candidate, because Angela Lansbury is fighting with her husband, the senator, who's kind of representing the symbol of McCarthyism, and he's uh, going on calling press conferences saying that there's throwing out all these different numbers of how many communists there are, and he pleads with his wife, who's behind all of this. Um, could you please just give me one number? And they cut to a shot of the Heinz 57 ketchup bottle, and
Yes.
the next scene, he's doing a press conference saying there are 57 communists in such one of the government agencies. I don't remember, so I will pass on that. I don't remember.
It is the 57 pickle varieties that they once had.
Ah,
And I seem to remember seeing on some jars that Heinz sold, not only the 57 embedded in the glass jar, but also the pickle symbol. So there you go.
okay.
And here's the final question. What is Asheville's, I presume that's Asheville, North Carolina.
I just
What is
drew.
Asheville's biggest snowstorm? This comes right out of the blue here.
I'm gonna say 15 inches.
Not too bad. Still, as they would say on the Price is Right, higher, higher,
Higher. 20.
lower, lower. We're doing the clock game, folks.
17 and a half.
No, a little higher than that.
18.
A little bit higher.
18.2.
Dang!
Oh,
There
did
you
I,
go.
I win something?
No, you didn't.
I
but
didn't
I
even
will
win, I didn't even win a pan flute.
No, but what you do is, it was March 1993. I guess that was the superstorm of '93 that brought that
That's what
18.2.
I was thinking about that. Okay,
Yeah.
here are yours. You ready? Let's roll through these. What is the
Yeah.
only country that does not sell Coke or Pepsi?
There's actually a country that doesn't sell that.
Yeah.
What country
It's a
would not?
country that you know. It's a country that is in the news from time to time.
The Ukraine.
No. This country has a rather strange leader,
Not including our country.
not including our country. Yes, okay. This country has a strange leader.
I don't know, Joe.
North Korea.
They don't sell
No,
Coke or
Coke,
Pepsi in
Coke
North
or
Korea?
Pepsi. No.
Oh,
Question 2. Abraham Lincoln was fascinated by what animal?
fascinated by what animal? The raccoon?
Domestic animal.
Oh, a cat?
Bingo. Question 3. What was the first fast food restaurant in America?
Wetsons.
Okay, let's do
White Castle. White Castle.
White Castle. Correct.
White Castle. Really?
Yes.
Okay.
What is the only sport that's been played on the moon?
Golf.
Bingo. And
Alan Shepard.
Yes. And what planet has the most volcanoes?
Um, well, I would say I'm not sure now. It used to be Mars. I think now they're saying it's Venus.
And that is correct. You did better than me today.
Oh.
You
So,
did. You
there
did
you go.
better than me.
There you go.
Now I posted
know,
I posted my pictures and they're not here. This is very odd. Let me see if I can find these. I'm waiting for my page to load. No. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I just want to show you. Okay, so here we go. I'll bring them back up here. You can take a look. So this is my view. And I'm in Blairsville, Georgia at the moment. And that's a nice shot. There's a golf course here, and then you see the mountains in the background. So these aren't little bitty hills up here, folks. We're talking about solid elevation here. And here's another view.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. It's as I said yesterday, it was a big surprise as to just how how beautiful
So
it is here in the North Georgia mountains.
So it looks like you're about 1 to 2 weeks past the peak foliage, or maybe even a bit more.
Yeah, no, the leaves are long done, long done.
That's interesting. Just like up here at least in New York City and Long Island.
Yeah, no, it's all over with. All right, let's say goodnight, Joe. Of course, the Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by our friends at True Value Hardware. where you can get all your winter storm supplies. They're Long Island's largest rock salt provider, along with just about everything you need to get you through this winter, be it rock salt or any one of a number of snow and ice melting products. And of course, your shovels, spreaders, snow blowers, whatever you need. 631 756 1125, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue, just north of the Southern State Parkway. And their website is omnitruevalue.com. And I'm definitely operating slower here, Joe. Hang on 1 second. There we go.
Well, those grandkids really wear you down, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do. So again, a reminder. So we're going to be here right now. We're here tomorrow night, but we're definitely going to be off Wednesday and Thursday, possibly Friday. All right. So just giving everybody a heads up. So have a great evening. Thanks for.
One,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe.
no, one question. I mean, they're still very, very young, and they don't really have any idea or clue of the significance. But in about 5 years, you're going to be the kind of grandfather who walks into the room and says, "Well, anybody in this room interested in a little bit of money here?"
Yeah, Joe. Yeah. Nobody uses cash anymore. Everybody's, either it's on a credit card or a gift card. So I'll be probably giving them gift cards. Actually, we already do that to an extent.
Grandpa.
But I'm cooking Thanksgiving dinner, so that's my job this week.
That's something I'm sure you're really looking forward to, huh?
No, I enjoy it. I enjoy making Thanksgiving dinner, and
Great.
I've done it over the years. My daughter did all the food shopping for me. I gave her a list. She picked up everything I needed with making a sausage cornbread stuffing, and it's all good. So, all right, have a great night, everyone. Saying good night. Good night, Joe Rayo.
Good night, Mr. Chiaffi.